That down. I'd like to turn the floor over to Dr. Stacey Francis, Inforum member, who will be presenting on the Supercharged Method, Stress and Carb Cravings. Stacey, the floor is yours.
Thank you. It's so great being here. Thank you for having me. I am a co-chair for another Inforum group called Women of Wellness. I put it in the chat. And June 16th, which is next Thursday at noon, we're talking about cognitive function, brain function, and memory. And it's more like a panel. So you're all welcome to join us if you'd like. So today I have a pretty lengthy presentation. So we might not get through all of it, but we'll get through lots of great stuff. And I hope it's like really valuable for you. It's the Supercharged Method, which is a book that I just put out. And it is about stress and carb cravings is what we're talking about today. And let me see if it will let me go. Oh, there it goes. Okay, so I am Dr. Stacey Francis. I'm a chiropractic kinesiologist, which means I do muscle testing to determine imbalances in the body. I'm a functional medicine practitioner, which means I do labs and I look really deep to find out what the cause of any condition is. If you're coughing, I want to know exactly why you're coughing, not just give you a cough suppressant. I'm a public speaker. I love educating people on the health and wellness of their body. And it is my passion. Love to talk about it. I have great cases, so much to say. And if you are looking for a public speaker, please reach out. And I am newly a published author of the Supercharged Method, Your Transformation from Fatigue to Energize. The launch is June 21st. That's Tuesday at noon. If you're so inclined to download the book at that time, it's going to be 99 cents. And that's our big launch. You're always welcome to come to the office during that time because we're having a big open house at that time between, I think, 11:30 and 2. Okay, and this keeps popping up. I don't want that to pop up. Okay, let's start with the brain. How do I minimize this bottom bar? I'm not quite sure how to do that. Okay, well, anyways, we're going to start with the brain. When you have stress or anxiety, there's 3 parts of your brain are involved. The brainstem. Let me see if I can move this somewhere else. I don't know where that's going to go. The brainstem, also known as the primitive brain or survival brain, that is the first part of the brain that gets developed because it's for survival. So we always have that part of a brain starting first when we're in development. The limbic system, which includes the hypothalamus, hippocampus, and amygdala, which are really funny words to mean your emotional brain. It's where we store emotion. We talk about amygdala all the time because when you have those repeating thoughts in your head before you go to bed and it's keeping you from sleeping, that's your amygdala working overtime. It is also survival because it's like, oh, I got to remember this. Oh, I got to remember this. So it's constantly on alert to make sure that you're remembering things. So if you write things down, then it goes out of the amygdala and it goes on paper and you're able to sleep better. The frontal lobe. This is the most important part. It is known as your evolved brain. It evolved last, and it is all about thinking and cognitive function, and we'll talk more about that. So we have the emotional brain, which is deep inside the brain, the evolved brain, which is in the front, and the primitive brain, which is in the back. So let's talk about those. The primitive brain is urgency, repetitiveness, instant gratification, ensures our survival, self-preserving, and it's for feeding, fighting, fleeing, and that other F word that makes more people. There's the emotional brain. That is what processes fear, pleasure, anger, and other emotions. It houses that amygdala, which is what we just talked about, and also communicates with the evolved brain. So if you have a lot of strong emotions, you can actually think your way into the next step. You have a thought, and then you have a feeling about that thought. And if you control your thoughts, you can control your feelings. So when we have a situation where we're really angry about something, typically there was a thought there first. The anger didn't just happen on its own. And then we have the evolved brain. And that includes your impulse control, your problem solving, your motor function, thinking, planning, reasoning, decision-making, and choosing to eat healthy comes from here. All your choices come from here. So there's 2 reasons we overeat, but I picked apart one of them, but particularly carbs is what we're talking about. When we eat just big quantities of food, usually our stomach will keep us from overdoing it to that extent. But when we eat carbs, usually we can eat a whole lot of them and not feel that expansion until we're way past our limit. So 2 reasons: our brain gets hijacked and we have unprocessed emotions. The brain gets hijacked, and we're going to talk about perceived starvation and addictions. So a hijacked brain, that's when someone takes over that frontal part. So what does that? Raise your hand if you skip meals, but then feel like you're eating your face off. We often have this problem, and we're going to talk about why. If you skip meals, it triggers your danger, your stress response to your primitive brain, and the primitive brain hijacks that evolved frontal brain and has you reaching for quick fuel, saying, I'm not going to survive this unless I get quick fuel in right away. And that doesn't mean I'm reaching for a piece of chicken, a chicken breast and broccoli. That means I'm reaching for something that is going to pour sugar in really quickly into the system. And that's sugar and flour. And those are the key to what we lose control with. And we're going to talk about why. These quick carbs, they stimulate dopamine. And that is the reward center in your brain, which in turn makes you reach for more carbs. And your brain gets hijacked this way. It becomes a routine, it becomes a habit, and becomes an addiction. The solution, it's the supercharged method. So this is just a piece of the supercharged method. This is our eating plan. And it's 1 serving of protein and 2 servings of veggies every 3 to 4 hours in a 12-hour time period. If you've ever heard me speak before, I speak about this all the time because it helps balance blood sugar, gets all your good nutrients in, which means it's repairing things that you didn't even know were broken, such as needing B vitamins, needing vitamin C, all the things that you need, minerals, to be really optimally healthy and function at a really high level. We eat every 3 to 4 hours so that we're not skipping meals, so that your brain doesn't get hijacked and say, oh my God, I need to eat now because I'm starving. And in 12 hours, it gives us 12 hours for our GI system to rest and to clean up things. And that's when we clean up things like bad cells that shouldn't be there. Okay. Raise your hand if you notice that eating quick carbs makes you want them more. Let's talk about why. We just said the word dopamine. What is dopamine? So dopamine is a neurotransmitter and a hormone, and it sends messages between nerve cells. And it's a chemical of desire, what you want but don't have. So as soon as you have something, then you need it again, because dopamine is the chemical of desire, what you want but don't have. And dopamine stimulates the reward center in our brain and creates desire. It's what was needed by our ancestors to survive. Without desire, there's no impetus to drive action. Desire drives action. Without desire, we would have never left the cave. We would have never sought out food. We would have never made relationships. We would have never furthered the population. So dopamine's really important. Desire allows us to eat, drink, socialize, find comfort, and learn. The more desire, the more we learn. Once a behavior accomplishes fulfilling a specific desire, we want to repeat that and build that neural pathway so strongly that we don't have to expend any energy on it. Like when you ride a bicycle, you learn once and it takes some brain power to figure it out and to do it and to find out balance and all. But once you do it, you can do it without thinking, because you've developed that neural pathway, and you do it. The more you do it, the stronger it becomes. The more reward, the faster we repeat the same pattern. This creates a neural pathway to fulfill the desire faster each time. The more we repeat the neural pathway, the more it's ingrained in our behavior. So it could be bike riding, but it could also be sitting on the couch at night eating chips. We don't want that. Eating spikes dopamine. Doesn't matter what you're eating, all eating spikes dopamine. But some things spikes it more. Quick carbs, sugar and flour. But fruit is sugar, right? Well, fruit is actually a slower carb. And berries, even slower, because it has a lot of fiber. So when you eat a whole fruit, you have the fiber and the sweetness, and it slows it down. But as soon as you take that berry and you squish it and you get like a few drops of juice, but you want a whole glass of juice, so you're going to squish a whole lot of berries, then you've actually removed the fiber. And now all you have is the juice and the sugar. And so that spikes dopamine even more. If we take it a step further and we take that fruit flavor, but we only put in sugar and we take out all the nutrients, then we have things like candy, which really spikes the dopamine. Because sugar is something that our brain gets addicted to really quickly, and it's really not good for us. So we aren't actually addicted to carbs, we're addicted to the dopamine response that the carbs cause. The solution: avoiding sugar and flour and alcohol, or minimize it and add it to your meal. Because when you add it to your meal, then that whole meal will slow it down and you won't have as much of a spike. But when you're starting off, it's better to avoid it or to find really good substitutes. And at the Supercharged Method, when we do our program, we're foodies. We love food. Trader Joe's is my favorite place to shop, and I love all their new products. And I'm really into making sure that you don't feel deprived and you're never left hungry. So it's a great program. And if you're interested, we'll talk more about that in a little bit. So what sweeteners are acceptable? So when you want something sweet, you can have sweet without spiking your dopamine or even your insulin, which is your fat storage hormone, and no one wants that. You choose erythritol, monk fruit, stevia, and a limited amount of fruit. You can stimulate dopamine in a healthy way. You can do yoga, meditation, or physical activity, and that also stimulates dopamine, but in a healthy way. So raise your hand if you eat when you are angry, lonely, sad, tired, frustrated, bored, procrastinating. I saw someone in the chat had mentioned something like that. Yep, we do that too. We just want to feel better. We want to feel better. And this is one of the things that happens. When we have eaten ice cream, we know that that makes us feel better. And so we will use that to feel better when we're not feeling our best. And so we'll eat ice cream. And then that will make us want more ice cream. So it increases that craving. And so whether we're happy or sad, now we just have that craving for ice cream because we know it makes us feel good. The other part is unprocessed emotions. This is another way that we overeat and crave carbs. Unprocessed emotions contribute to stress, and stress has us seeking comfort. Remember, stress to our primitive brain means danger. And so when we want to seek comfort, we're actually looking for that dopamine hit that makes us feel secure. And we can get it in lots of different ways, but the ones that are worse for our health are using food, alcohol, drugs, caffeine, smoking, and video games to get that dopamine hit. Our thoughts drive our feelings, and our feelings drive our actions. So urges are emotions that are driving us to act immediately, and they're driven by the desire for reward and pleasure. And that's not bad. Your body works brilliantly. Urges cannot be fulfilled without your prefrontal consent. Your frontal brain is what decides whether or not you're going to indulge on that or not. So what do we do with these emotions? So we can exercise, meditate, listen to music, process our emotions. These are things that will stimulate dopamine a lot less than sugar does, but it will still make us feel better. So how do we process emotions? The bottom line is being present with the vibrations in our body and not running from them or being really reactive. So we want you to feel your feelings, like sit and feel them. Where in your body do you feel that anger, that frustration? And once you are able to feel it, then you can do other tools. You can write it down. You can talk to a friend. You can talk to a therapist. And all that processing allows you to get through that emotion into the next thought, where you can have a different emotion. And we talk all about all these concepts in the Supercharged Method. And it's a step-to-step transformation to overcoming fatigue and brain fog and stubborn weight gain. And it helps you achieve energy, focus, clarity, a body you love without hunger or deprivation. I have a 6-week course and it starts Monday, July 25th. It is all the blood work you need that's going to look at blood sugar balance, thyroid markers, oxygen transport markers, and inflammation. These are tests that your doctor doesn't normally do. Your doctor will do the ones that are covered by insurance, but these are the ones that dig deeper. And usually it's what food will fix. So we use food to help these different situations. We include the first 3 supplements or 20% off any needed supplements over the next 6 weeks. And the Supercharged Method book and workbook, weekly Zoom calls, Facebook accountability group, video modules, and a whole bag of goodies. So we walk you all the way through the course. I hold your hand. Whatever goals you have for your health and wellness, this is a great program for that. It's only 6 weeks. We get a whole lot done. We've seen changes in labs. Doctors are taking their patients off their medications or cutting it in half with this kind of lifestyle change. So if cauliflower can somehow become pizza, then you, my friend, can accomplish anything. And that is my presentation. I wanted to give enough time for questions, so I'm going to stop sharing and we can turn it back over.
Thank you, Stacey. And I'm going to stop the recording right now so that our questions are not recorded.